All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm Noah Sawyer, and this is the Junto, and this is episode 50, kind of a milestone episode. But I didn't plan it as a milestone episode. I haven't done a show in a month, and I had a feeling like I could do one today, so I'm getting a haircut tomorrow, but I don't like how my hair looks right now. But anyway, um, yeah, I just figured I would try to I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit. Um, I'm taking it day by day, but I feel like I've got enough to share today about where I'm at, and I just wanted to I wanted to throw this out there for anyone who felt like they needed to hear it on the off chance that anyone who needs to hear it finds it and hears it. So, pretty much the whole time on this show, I've been talking about the world that we live in and how corrupt and perverse our culture is, and how it really hurts people, separates people, alienates people, atomizes people and communities. And I have been trying to, share my perspective on this in hopes that what I have found to bring me relief and bring me strength could help other people weather the storm and avoid succumbing to the ways of the world, which are really quite evil, especially now, and they really hurt people and destroy people's minds and destroy their wills and bring them to do things that suck, like work a horrible job for your entire life. And anyway, sorry, I feel so rusty because it's been like a month, but lately I've been thinking about that because I commit to a particular spiritual path 4 months ago that I believe is true. I'm a Catholic now, and it has been such an intense experience. So I'm going to be 30 pretty soon. For the past 10 years, I've been like spiritually seeking more or less, and probably a little more than most people I knew. And I was finding wisdom, and I was applying that wisdom to my life, and it helped me eventually overcome depression, and it helped me in many ways. But what I've discovered since converting to Catholicism is really the actual spiritual part of myself. Sometimes I think of it as the spiritual body, was actually completely neglected and barely alive at all, just emaciated, um, incapable of acting and participating in what my life was, even though I felt like I had acquired wisdom from spiritual sources, such as the Tao Te Ching or the Sufi texts or anything. And so it's just been interesting to me at this point in my journey, 4 months in to being Catholic, and just how much I'm learning about our spiritual reality and how much people have been engaging with it for centuries and literally millennia at such an advanced level, like such incredible lucidity about what our interior life and exterior world are like. And you find that in texts from the 1500s, you find it in texts from the first century. And of course, you find stuff similar to that prior to Christ and in Socrates or in Lao Tzu. In all of those sources, there is wisdom, but this reflection that I was kind of feeling today is about how none of this would have been possible if I had not gone out on the limb and committed myself to my faith. Because, well, I was baptized as a baby, but I was not raised in this faith at all. I happened to go to a Catholic high school, but it was not the religious education there was actually really pretty poor, and I did not learn much about what the religion really was. So now, or like, I found myself about a year ago getting more interested in Catholicism and uncovering what it is. And it reminds me, a priest said recently in his homily, it's commonly said that Jesus taught so that he gave so much of his teaching in parables because he wanted them to be simple enough for anyone to understand. But really, there's a it's almost the opposite, where it is hidden in simplicity, and there's like really profound depth. That there's virtue to the simplicity, which is that it actually can reach people it might not otherwise reach. But the parables also protect it from like prideful people engaging in it, or self-righteous or self-assured rather people from engaging in it enough to uncover the truths of the world. So I'm not planning on pushing Catholicism specifically in this video, but I do think I think Catholicism's like the one theological truth that there is. However, I think regardless of your religion and your religious path, making that commitment is very important for learning, whether you stick with it, or maybe it brings you to Catholicism, or maybe it eventually gets you to stray from religion at all. I don't know. Everyone's on a very different path, but I believe we all need to commit to saying to ourselves that there is a spiritual reality in this world. And that can be hard to say at times, because when we're out in the world, everything is about the economy and consumption and entertainment and sex and pleasure and superficiality. There's very little engagement with deep questions about, so what's going on, and how can we analyze what's actually good or bad about this, and how do we really connect with each other in a way that is loving and is going to change our lives for the better. So I just want to be a voice in your life that is contrary to that, because I was reading a preface to a book about the prophet Jeremiah earlier, and actually, this would be a nice thing to read. He has a poem in here, if I have it handy. Yeah, so this is a book by Daniel Berrigan. I don't know a ton about Daniel Berrigan. I think he was a Jesuit priest, anti-war activist, Christian pacifist, and author, according to the back. So, anyway, I've been just feeling an affinity with Jeremiah lately, but I haven't read the book of Jeremiah in its entirety. I've just been feeling sort of... Hang on. I don't know. I've just been feeling something with him. So I do not know how to pronounce this poet's name. Czesławmilos. I don't know if that's Polish or Serbian or what, but Czesław Milos. So this is just from the preface, because Daniel Berrigan says that the man for him in this poem has been the prophet Jeremiah, and that's an Old Testament prophet. You don't really need much more context right now, so here's this poem. Come, Holy Spirit, bending or not bending the grasses, appearing or not above our heads in a tongue of flame, at hay harvest, or when they plow in the orchards, or when snow covers crippled firs in the Sierra Nevada. I am only a man, I need visible signs. I tire easily, building the stairway of abstraction. Many a time I asked, you know it well, that the statue in church lift its hand only once, just once, for me. But I understand that signs must be human. Therefore, call one man anywhere on earth. Not me. After all, I have some decency. and allow me, when I look at him, to marvel at you. And he says that's been Jeremiah for him. I don't remember why I brought that up. But, I brought it up because also in that preface, I wrote this down in my journal. He says something about Jeremiah being one of those examples of someone who will never be won over to the world's ways, who will just never be won over to living like that. And I was writing that, I pray I will never be won over to the ways of the world. I do not like them. So anyway, I kind of just want to encourage more people to really, really assess if there's a spiritual reality, and if the ways of the world are so obviously corrupt and disgusting, which most of us would agree that most of it sucks, then just really ask yourself, what is that spiritual reality? What does it mean for me? And one way to do that is, I don't know, in conversations about Catholicism with some of my friends lately, this is kind of how it went for me with Catholicism. I was just like, okay, like, leading into it, I was even just like, I think maybe even just psychologically, I mean, this was before I started really pursuing Catholicism, but I was like, maybe even just psychologically, I need to commit to a religion for the rest of my life. There's nothing shameful about that, I was saying. And like, maybe it's just going to be good for me to commit to one. And there's so many, I'll figure it out. And I, at one point, was not pursuing for that reason, but I was exploring Catholicism as a possible commitment. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having that be a phase in your journey, because ultimately certainly if you arrive where you need to arrive in relationship with God through that, I think that's a very good thing. We are totally lost growing up in this society. And so however you can rationalize getting yourself to take religion seriously, I say go for it. And some of those questions could be, so what do Catholics actually believe? Like, so what's going on here? Because as you investigate it, you'll be like, well, I don't believe that. Okay, here we go. You're starting to build up a worldview spiritually and be like, okay, well, I don't believe that. And you can start interrogating it. Why don't I? Why do I believe the opposite? Or why do I hold this belief? Why don't I think that could ever be true, this other thing? I really think that is an important thing for people to engage in. And I think ultimately decisions must be made in solitude or in your own person. But that's a great thing to talk about with friends, especially friends of other religions. So anyway, a more essential question though, rather than just being like, so I need to figure out this religion thing. What do Catholics believe? Okay, I'll check it out. No, I think a even more fundamental thing. Well, there's lots of questions like this. Like you could be like, does God exist? If I believe that God created the universe, what do I believe he is like, and why do I believe it? That's a very essential thing too, but that's not what I'm going to focus on. I think we need to focus on this concept of prayer for a minute, because just ask yourself, what is prayer? Do I do it? What impedes prayer? Do I do that? What would make it habitual in my life to pray? What would make it very, very difficult to make it be habitual in my life to pray? And in there, I just want to highlight this concept of noise and distraction. I think distraction, lately I really want to emphasize, whenever I say distraction in a few conversations lately, I want to emphasize it, like I want to put a dash in between. I want to be like distraction. Like you are losing your traction. You are swerving off of the road because you've lost your traction in this particular topography. And that is so I mean, if you watch the show, which you should do, we are in a psychological war. A we are having our minds like destroyed through distraction and addiction and through the atomization of people. So now when we communicate with people, we're mostly regurgitating information we've consumed through media to each other, just reflecting it back and forth in this disgusting way. And that all works together to create one of the stupidest populations in history. And stupid's not really the right word, although it is true, but it's really, we are a helpless population, and we're an instrumentalizable population. We're a population that can be convinced to do X, Y, Z. We can be convinced to vote for A or B or C. We can be, it's just, so anyway, so that, I get into that on the show, but if that is the case, prayer is this communication with something that is invisible to you, something that is not entirely comprehensible to you, something that knows you entirely, and something that made you and everything. This communication is extremely powerful. It can really heal you. It can really help you. More than that, it can really change the world. It can really heal other people and other things in the world. So, prayer, if you have no idea what it is, or if you have an atheistic view of the concept or a psychological view of the concept, just start trying to ground yourself maybe a little bit further back in human history, or just try to familiarize yourself more with how people used to live, because things have been so rapidly changing for 150 years. And I'm not a traditionalist. I think we're going to come out of this change in a positive way. At least some of us will, at least at worst, just when we die. But there's if you read, say, the Lives of the Saints, for example, but if you just read about any, medieval communities, or just read about people who have prayed throughout history and what it meant to them, and then humble yourself to say, I don't know what that is. I don't know what they were doing, and I want to know, and I want to find out. Maybe I can try it. Maybe it's available to me too. And it is a humility thing. We have to say, like, yeah, I guess I don't know what that is, because some things you can only find out what they are by doing it. And so that kind of just ties into the essential thesis of this video. You can only know by doing it. And life is not a spectator sport, and life is supernatural. It's not just what you think it is, and it's certainly not just what you're capable of conceiving in your own mind. So we need to reckon with the invisible, and we need to reckon with things that are beyond one mind's comprehension, things that are beyond the entire human collective mind's comprehension. And from that, we need to derive ways of living that true spirituality and connection with God in this unprecedented historical situation, in this unprecedented socio-political nightmare, where we're being technologically taken advantage of in a serious way. So, yeah, I mean, I did some of that just yesterday because I was struggling with, I'll get into kind of my whole journey a little bit more once I settle down, because it's like every single day something extremely intense is happening. So I haven't done a show in a while, but I'm just changing. So so I was struggling with thoughts of lust yesterday in a way, and I was I don't know, I have this book that I've never looked at, Devils, Demons, Death, and Damnation, with tons of engravings from mostly the 1400s and 1500s, but there's art from even the 1800s in here. And, some of it is very... I think medieval art is awesome. But I'm not super familiar with it. And anyway, I just really tried putting myself in the shoes of the artists. Like, because it takes time to make stuff like this. And I just tried to really put myself in their shoes making things like this and trying to understand what they were trying to convey, where it was coming from. Because we have such a flippancy problem in the post-internet era where nothing matters and nothing means anything and nothing takes any time and everything's a joke. And so I was just trying to empathize with those people who were making these things and what symbols they were trying to include or why they were representing something a certain way. Some of these are a lot more crude than others. Some of them are really extremely like technically impressive. I mean, it's all impressive to me because I'm not a visual artist, but anyway, but it snapped me out of it, and it didn't snap me out of it because I was like, I'm gonna go to hell if I masturbate or something. It just snapped me out of it because it just helped me connect with the reality of the human situation in this one cosmos that we all share together. And I just felt connected with that human experience and these engravers, and also with invisible realities. I felt connected, or I felt like I was communicating with someone about the invisible things that I feel like I understand and am learning about and trying to protect myself from and trying to navigate the world with a mind for, trying to keep them in mind as I make my moral decisions, as I become the person that I want to be. So it was just so striking because we don't get that a whole lot. And I've been getting it much more than I used to because I'm hanging out with like priests and monks and people who hang out with priests and monks now. But I still live in the world, and I don't think I'm going to be a priest or a monk. I don't think I'm going to exit the world in that type of way. And not that all of them really exit the world. It's not like all monks are cloistered away in the mountains. Lots of monks have jobs in the world. So, anyway, it's just distracting to be in the world, and it really pulls you away. And I'm lucky that, sorry, I'm lucky that I have so much access to my religion in this country. Like, I'm glad pretty much anywhere I go, there's going to be a Catholic church around there, because I go to church almost every day. And it's like that, to be able to meet people who are also taking the cosmos seriously in a way that I'm trying to as well, goes a long way. So, I'll read another thing. I got this facsimile of a strange old book. I think the original is from like the late 40s or maybe the 50s by like a kid or like a teenager who just like printed this really crazy version of the Psalms with his own artwork and everything. So but there was one that I opened up to in here. It's Psalm 121. So there's a line in here that is translated differently in the modern Bible that I have, because the first line is, I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. And another translation that I have says something more like, Sorry, I just don't want it to be super glared out, but it's a beautiful book. And so, yeah, over here it says, I lift up my eyes toward the mountains. Whence shall help come to me? So it's phrased as a question instead of saying, like, the mountains are where my help comes from. But in a sense, it's the maker of the mountains who gives us our help. So I think this version's all right. And so I'll just read it because I just opened up to it before I came on here. And it does speak to what I was saying about noise and distraction because, you know, here's someone who needs help. In this psalm, this is someone with a connection to God. This is someone who has a commitment. He's committed himself to what he believes. And he lifts up his eyes unto the hills. And I think that is an indicator of quietude. It's like he's certainly not scrolling on his phone or like any of the noisy things that just occupy our society, or coveting a woman, or any of these things. Like he's out in nature at the tempo of nature, which is important because prayer takes place at a specific tempo, and it's slow. If you want to go deep, you go slow. And so here's Psalm 121. Oh, and this book is the Psalm book of Charles Knowles. So it's a facsimile, it's not an original. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, and even forevermore. And, I mean, the first thing that stuck out to me, and the lines that I wrote down were just the last two, and then I wrote down the first one as well, but the Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. A major reason we need spiritual commitment is, like, just that this life is really horrifying. Like, there's a lot of extreme evil now and in the past, and most people only barely grasp how much evil and pain and suffering and torture really exist in the world and have existed perhaps from the beginning, although I think it gets worse as time goes on. So if that's what's going on here, well, I guess this isn't necessarily how I want you to start thinking about spirituality, but there is a side of it where it's like, well, if that's what's going on here, what's going to go on after we die? Because it's not maybe it would, because clearly God's not messing around, basically. It's like, it's not, he really is taking free will. He's respecting free will above all else in a certain way. And, you know, I'm not an expert on this stuff. I could be saying something in a way that's incorrect or uninformed. But it seems like he's putting free will above all else. You know, looking through this Devils, Demons, Death, and Damnation book, it's like, or there's a section that's just a bunch of illustrations of Lucifer. And it's like, yeah, I mean, God's respecting his free will to do what he wishes in this cosmos. And so if he's taking it even that far, then this really isn't a game, basically. And who knows what's going to happen after we die. We can have some understanding, but we're not there. We're just not there yet. So there's that side of it, and that's what that reminded me of. But the nicer thing that I was thinking about with this is in my other translation here. It's I lift up my eyes toward the mountains, not the hills, the mountains. Whence shall help come to me? And then, may he not suffer your foot to slip, may he slumber not who guards you. I think of, you can look at a mountain from a distance and it'll look like a hill, or you can look at a mountain up close and it's always going to look like a mountain. You can be on the mountain, looking to the top of the mountain, and it's going to look like a mountain. And I started reading this psalm like that, after a couple times reading it earlier. And it's like we are on a mountain. At the very least, if you make spiritual commitments in your life, and it really starts affecting how you want to live, then you are on a mountain, and you can go up or you can go down. You can fall, you can try to sprint, you can get lost, you can get stuck. You can, talk about distraction. Losing your traction on a mountain in the wrong spot is fatal. I think distraction in our contemporary society at the wrong time is fatal. So we should really try to be careful with what our habits are. If we have a habitual distraction, we're putting ourselves in danger in a big way. We're hurting ourselves. And the companies don't care about that. The phone companies, the app companies, it's all vile people doing vile things. At the worst, they're like neutrally evil. Some people involved. So anyway, or did I say at the worst? I meant at the best. And some of them I'm sure have great intentions, but so yeah, at first I was reading it like, oh, I'm looking out at the mountains in the distance, and that's reminding me of God. It's bringing me to a slower tempo. But then I started reading it like, oh, we're on this mountain. And then he's talking to someone else. May he not suffer your foot to slip. May he slumber not who guards you. As if they're going up the mountain together. And really he's speaking to you because he wants you also to go up this mountain with him, the psalmist. So anyway, I guess I'll leave it at that. And yeah, hopefully I start doing these shows a little more. And I'm still doing the Patreon. If you want to join the book club, I will send you a book every month. And I'm sending some heat, honestly. I thought I would just send, cheaper books, but I like you guys in the Patreon book club, so I'm like, you get I want you guys to get the good stuff. So it's all the same to me. I just have like a million. So anyway, yeah, feel free to sign up for that, and I appreciate any financial help or even just nice words if you appreciate this show, or prayers, anything. Yeah. And if you ever have questions about anything, well, really the best way to get in contact with me is in the comments, but if you want to send a private message to me, I think my email's on here in one place or another, so yeah, you can do that. I think I have an email address that's americanjunto@pm.me, but I don't even know. I honestly don't look at my email almost ever. So yeah, anything else good before I go? Yeah, I guess just one more note. Just send it home, I guess. If there's a supernatural reality to the cosmos, if there's a spiritual, invisible reality, and especially if there are spirits, angels, demons, if there are people, or, I'll call them people, I don't know. If there are spirits out there interacting with reality and interacting with your consciousness, then we should probably try to figure that out. I started taking a Discernment of Spirits class recently, and we're reading this book, The Discernment of Spirits, going over Ignatius's, St. Ignatius of Loyola. He was born in the late 1400s in Spain, I believe. He wrote some simple rules. I mean, you can read them in, there's just 14 rules. They read really quick, but when you reflect on them, there's an infinite depth to them. And so we're just kind of going through that because you could psychologize this into just saying we all have a death drive, that we get thoughts and impulses and desires that pull us toward things that are bad for us, that are going to hurt us. And, in the Catholic ontology, not all of those are from our flesh or from our psychology. There's also kind of a spiritual war being waged that we can't understand because we are also flesh. We are spirit, but we're also flesh. And so, we can glimpse it, but we see through a glass darkly. And so we can glimpse enough to protect ourselves, and it's just kind of worth getting into that. So I don't know, maybe I'll get into that another time, but there was an illustration I saw. Maybe this is the one that really struck me off the bat. You're probably not going to be able to see it, but I'll show you just in case you can zoom in on it or something, because I think this should be pretty high quality, the video. It's this guy, but really both of them. And, maybe you'll be able to make it out, maybe not. But there's a blackbird whispering into his ear. And the caption is, "The evil spirit figured as a blackbird whispering into the ear of a magician." So I'm not a magician. I'm not trying to do that. But the blackbird is whispering into all of our ears. I think the magician summons the blackbird, but we're all getting a lot of where not every thought, I believe not every thought in us is of us. So if we take every thought captive and interrogate it and see if it's really something we want in there, if it's something we want to follow, we can protect ourselves. But there's a lot to it. But anyway, I wrote down in my notebook, "Let no blackbird whisper in your ear." And so I will leave you with those words. So have a good night, everybody. I will be back at some point. I love the show. I'll keep doing the show. But okay, see ya.